I just wanted to take a nap. That's all. A glorious, uninterrupted, dad-style Saturday nap. But instead, I found myself in the middle of what would later be known in our family as the Great Cookie War. It started like any ordinary Saturday, the kind where cereal crunches beneath cartoon soundtracks and no one can find matching socks. I was sitting at the kitchen table, still in my bathrobe, nursing a lukewarm cup of coffee and half reading the back of a cereal box when Beth, my wife and the queen of spontaneous family bonding ideas, cleared her throat. She wore that smile, the one that always comes right before she drops a sentence that changes the course of my weekend. We're having a family cookie baking contest today. I nearly spilled my coffee. Hey, what now? Beth clapped her hands. A cookie contest. Everyone bakes their own recipe. Winner gets this. She held up a shiny, glitter-covered plastic cookie trophy, which I'm 98% sure used to be part of Emma's old tea set, and bragging rights until at least Christmas. From behind her, our 5-year-old daughter Emma gasped. I want to be the judge. Beth winked at her. Exactly what I was thinking, sweetheart. You'll be the judge. The room froze for a moment, and then, like someone hit the start button, chaos erupted. Katie, our 15-year-old, sprang off the couch like it was an Olympic event. Can I make spicy cookies? TikTok says it's a thing. Max, our 8-year-old, screamed something about gummy bears and peanut butter. Sparky, our golden retriever, barked with what I can only assume was competitive energy. Even my father-in-law, Tom, who was visiting for the weekend, raised one eyebrow and muttered, I haven't made Nana's snickerdoodles since '92. Might be time to dust off the old card. I looked around. Everyone was in. Excited. Eager. Committed. Everyone except me. Beth, I said quietly, I don't even know where we keep the flour. She patted my shoulder. That's the spirit, Han. Now listen. I love my family. I love laughter. I even love cookies. But baking? Baking involves math, patience, and multiple measuring spoons, none of which are in my skill set. My greatest culinary achievement is microwaving leftover spaghetti without it exploding. So I did what any self-respecting, slightly panicked dad would do. I planned to cheat. A quick text to my buddy Dave confirmed that the corner grocery had pre-baked chocolate chip cookies that could pass as homemade with a little oven reheat and creative plating. Problem solved. Beth was busy taping up hand-drawn contestant number 1, number 2, etc. signs on the cabinets. Katie was blasting music. Max was trying to fit marshmallows inside cookie cutters. Grandpa Tom sat at the kitchen island, slowly unfolding a yellowed recipe card like it was the final clue in a treasure map. I leaned over and peeked. Old family recipe? He nodded. Your mother-in-law's snickerdoodles. She made them every Christmas. I used to help. Before her hands got too shaky. I paused. The kitchen was loud, warm, alive. Tom's voice, though quiet, held a reverence. It reminded me of something I'd forgotten. Baking, for many, wasn't about food. It was about memory. I smiled, a little sheepishly. Sounds like you're the man to beat. He chuckled. We'll see. Emma was now sitting at the dining table with a clipboard Beth had made for her and a plastic tiara from a birthday party long ago. She adjusted it proudly. I'm going to be the best cookie judge in the whole wide world. And with that, the Great Cookie War officially began. I slipped out to the garage, hiding the grocery bag behind some paint cans. If I timed it right, no one would know I'd bought mine. Or so I thought. I don't think the word chaos adequately describes what happened in our kitchen over the next 2 hours. It was a baking free-for-all. A full-blown sugar tornado. Katie had taken over the left side of the counter, surrounded by green matcha powder, cayenne pepper, and what looked like sea salt. Spicy sweet fusion is totally trending, she told me, mixing furiously while simultaneously live-streaming to her 6 followers on TikTok. Max had set up a cookie science lab on the right. He poured half a box of cereal into his bowl, followed by rainbow sprinkles, gummy worms, chocolate syrup, and, because of course, peanut butter. He was shirtless for some reason, wearing ski goggles and calling himself the Cookie King. Meanwhile, Beth floated gracefully through the kitchen, snapping photos like a documentarian covering an epic food festival. Oh wow, that's a lot of sprinkles, Max. Oh, Katie, maybe less hot sauce, sweetheart. Tom stood at his corner of the counter like a seasoned craftsman, precisely leveling each teaspoon of cinnamon, timing everything on his old wristwatch. Occasionally, he'd mutter something like, Nana always used cold butter, or clockwise mixing only. And me? I was on edge. My fake cookies were stashed in the garage fridge, and I was waiting for the perfect moment to sneak them into the oven for that freshly baked smell. But every time I made a move, someone needed me. Dad, where's the parchment paper? Can you taste this and tell me if it's too sour? Sparky ate a marshmallow. Is he gonna explode? By the time I finally slipped outside, reheated the cookies, and plated them with just the right amount of rustic charm, I felt like a criminal with powdered sugar fingerprints. Triumphantly, I placed my tray on the counter and took a breath. That's when Sparky leapt onto the stool, snagged 3 of my cookies, and bolted down the hallway like a golden blur of guilt and glory. Sparky! I roared. The kids cackled. Beth snapped a photo. Katie shouted, "That's going viral." To make matters worse, the dog left behind a perfect trail of crumbs, leading directly to my cookies. Panic surged. I frantically tried to salvage the batch, rearrange the survivors on the plate, and hoped no one noticed that mine looked suspiciously uniform. And store-bought. As the oven timers beeped and the smell of scorched ambition filled the air, I watched the kitchen transform. Max had glued 2 cookies together with melted chocolate and called it a cookie burger. Katie was fanning her nose after a cayenne pepper mishap. Beth was wiping flour from the walls. And Grandpa pulled a tray from the oven and stared at the golden brown snickerdoodles. I saw his eyes soften. He didn't say anything, but he didn't have to. They were more than cookies. They were memories coming back to life. For the first time that day, I felt a twinge of guilt. Maybe cheating wasn't the worst crime. Maybe missing the moment was. When the final oven timer dinged and the smell of sugar, spice, and barely controlled chaos filled the air, Beth called out, "All contestants, bring your cookies to the table. The judging is about to begin." Our kitchen, once a cheerful battlefield of flour, now looked like a post-war bakery. Pans stacked in the sink like leaning towers, smudges of dough on cabinet handles, sprinkles embedded permanently in the tile grout. And at the center of it all, sitting regally in her booster seat, was Emma, 5 years old, tiara slightly crooked, clipboard in hand, ready to judge the most important contest of her life. She cleared her throat. "I need silence, please. Judges need to concentrate." We all went quiet. Even Sparky, now suspiciously bloated and suspiciously quiet, curled up at her feet like a royal guard. Beth whispered to me, "She's been rehearsing her judging face in the mirror all morning." "Looks intense," I muttered back. One by one, we approached the little judge with our creations. First up, Max. He marched forward proudly, presenting a lumpy, sticky, chocolate-drenched Frankenstein of a cookie. I call it the monster cookie bomb. It's got everything. Emma took a cautious bite. Her face moved through several emotions, confusion, curiosity, mild concern, and then settled on a polite smile. "It tastes like all the holidays mixed together," she said, scribbling something on her clipboard. Max bowed. "That's what I was going for." Next was Katie, who held up her matcha Inferno Crunch cookie like she was presenting fine art. "It's a little spicy," she warned, "but it's the kind of spice that makes you think." Emma took a bite. Then her face turned beet red. "H, she cried, fanning her mouth furiously. "It's thinking too hard." Beth rushed to hand her a glass of milk, while Katie tried to stifle a laugh. "Okay, maybe it's a little too forward-thinking." Emma wrote one word down: fire. Grandpa was up next. He moved slowly, holding a pristine plate of 6 perfectly round snickerdoodles. They looked golden and soft, with cinnamon sugar sparkling just right. "These are from Nana's recipe," he said softly. "She used to make them every year, right around this time." Emma took a bite and immediately closed her eyes. When she opened them, she whispered, "This one tastes like hugs." Tom nodded. His eyes, usually stoic and dry, glistened just a bit. Then he quietly stepped back. I was up, heart pounding. I approached my daughter and handed her my salvaged cookies, 3 survivors from the Sparky attack and one I'd hastily baked from scratch earlier as backup. Emma looked them over carefully. "These look very round." "Thanks," I said, trying to sound casual. She took a nibble of the first one, paused, chewed, and blinked. She glanced down at her clipboard, then back at me. "Daddy, this one tastes like the store." I froze. Katie gasped. Max screamed, "Dad cheated." Beth nearly dropped her phone mid-video. I put my hands up. Okay. I panicked. I did try to bake some myself, but Sparky ate half the batch and the rest looked like sad oatmeal bricks. So yes, I may have possibly slightly cheated. Emma stared at me with that tiny judge frown that only kids can do. "I'm not mad," she said solemnly. But Sparky gets your score now. I bowed my head. Fair. And finally, because life is absurd, Beth placed a single cookie on a napkin in front of Emma and said, "This was one of the ones Sparky stole. Let's call it a bonus round." Emma took a bite, eyes narrowed. "This one's brave." Beth laughed. "Why's that?" "Because he didn't even bake it, but he still showed up." We all lost it. Laughter echoed through the house. Grandpa chuckled. Katie fell to her knees. Max was rolling on the floor shouting, "Sparky wins! Sparky wins!" And Emma, ever the dramatic judge, stood on her chair, raised her arms, and declared, "The winner of the great cookie contest is Sparky the dog." Sparky, awakened by the announcement, wagged his tail once and let out a sleepy burp. Beth ceremoniously hung the plastic cookie trophy from his collar. And you know what? None of us were mad, because somehow the dog had won. He'd tasted nearly every batch. He hadn't judged. He hadn't cheated. He'd just shown up, hungry, happy, and ready to eat anything. And in a strange way. Wasn't that kind of beautiful? By the time the judging was over, the cookies were gone, eaten, dropped, sampled, or sacrificed to Sparky's bottomless appetite, and the kitchen looked like a war zone. There was flour in places flour should never be. Dried cookie dough on the ceiling fan. A rainbow sprinkled trail down the hallway, like someone had tried to make Hansel and Gretel more festive. I slumped into a chair, half laughing, half dazed. "Beth, do we own a second dishwasher?" She poured me a mug of lukewarm coffee and kissed my flour-covered forehead. "You did great, sweetie, even if your cookies had a slight Costco vibe." I panicked, I whispered, as if the confession still mattered. She just smiled and passed me a cracked cookie, one of Grandpa's snickerdoodles. It was warm, soft, and tasted like something far better than store-bought. It tasted like time travel. Across the room, Tom was watching Emma crown Sparky again with the plastic trophy, now taped together after Max accidentally stepped on it. He chuckled, a deep, nostalgic sound. "She would have loved this," he said softly. I turned toward him. "Nana?" He nodded. "Not just the baking. The whole mess. The noise. The chaos. The kids fighting over ingredients. She used to say, 'If your kitchen's too clean, you're doing family wrong.'" I smiled. "She sounds like someone who'd appreciate what just happened here." He looked at the ceiling, where a dried cookie had stuck after Max's dough-throwing experiment. "She would have called that art." The kids were now piled in the living room, watching cartoons and nursing their sugar comas. Emma was asleep on Katie's lap. Max had frosting in his hair. Sparky snored contentedly at their feet. Beth stood beside me, arms crossed, surveying the beautiful disaster. "You know," she said, "we could make this a tradition." I looked at her, eyes wide. "You mean more cookie contests?" She shrugged. "Maybe next time pie. Or gingerbread houses." I groaned. "Or maybe next time we order pizza and call it a culinary challenge." She laughed, leaned her head on my shoulder, and whispered, "You wouldn't trade today for anything though, would you?" I looked at the mess. At my kids. At the ridiculous plastic trophy. "No," I said. "Not for anything. Because that's the thing about family. The best memories aren't always made during perfect dinners or neatly planned outings. Sometimes they're born in flour fights and spice disasters. In store-bought cheats and cinnamon sugar legacies. In dogs stealing cookies and daughters declaring justice with glitter crowns. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real recipe we all need. A little bit of mess. A whole lot of love. And just enough laughter to stick it all together."